Hi, this is TECsperts, where the East Carolinian and Tech TV come together to bring you a preview of ECU athletics. This is Tyler Kelbaugh, the East Carolinian's football beat writer. This is Adam Decker, the other football beat writer for the East Carolinian. This is Brian Woodkovich, the sports editor for the East Carolinian. This is Justin Deal, the football editor for the East Carolinian. All right, so guys, last week, everyone predicted it wrong because guess what? I predicted ECU win, and you guys predicted the blowout, but it was a very close game. Pretty good game to watch as well, even though the teams were both sloppy. So what were some of the things that we could look for? Well, actually, let's get to the scoring system.
Let's talk about the impact player.
Yeah, since you want to talk so much about the impact player. Tyler was the man with the impact player with Isaiah Jones having a huge game. And then Adam Decker over here is the guy who picked the closest score with the winner, even though mine was the closest when it comes to points. But we're not going to discuss that.
Picked the wrong team.
Yeah, you picked the wrong.
Okay, whatever. If we were doing a bet, I would have won.
Pick the wrong team.
In Vegas, in Vegas, I would have won. In Vegas, I would have won. In Vegas, I would have won. Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna get into the actual game. One of the big things that was discussed a lot on social media was Florida's head coach's tirade on the team. What do you guys think about that? But since you were all there for it,
I understand why he had that tirade. The only reason ECU was in it was because of how poorly Florida was playing. If Florida didn't turn the ball over like they did, if they would have kept the momentum, they had 2 missed field goals in the second quarter. If they wouldn't have played sloppy like they did, East Carolina would have frankly gotten blown out. But Pirates kept on dodging bullets, Florida kept on messing up, and Florida was lucky to pull that one out. So I understand his frustration.
And the Pirates racked up a lot of penalties, but the Gators racked up even more. So I can understand why Coach McElwain was upset about that.
Yeah, I get the frustration, but you can't say it was the only reason East Carolina was in the game. Blake Kemp threw that pick 6 and they fought back. They deserved to be in that game down the stretch. They showed a lot of grit, a lot of toughness. I understand why the Florida coach was upset. They did play a bad game, but East Carolina made some mistakes too. But in the end, they had the mental toughness needed to really stay in that game.
And don't read too much into it. Jim McElwain is trying to take over a program that really sunk to all-time low under Will Muschamp, and with all the problems that they had off the field, on the field penalty with their discipline. And Jim McElwain's trying to fix that up. And in their first game, they had 1 penalty, and that's what he liked. And then in that game against ECU, they racked up a ton, and it really shot them in the foot. So he's just frustrated. He wants to get his point across, and it's all about that culture that he's trying to bring into Florida.
all right. So now let's talk a little bit about the quarterback, Blake Kemp. He's going to be in battle all year with James Summers right around the corner. So he had those 2 big turnovers that I kind of think that it cost him the game. But so what do you guys think about the quarterback situation right now?
Well, it did cost them the game, the turnovers, but he was also the reason that they were in the game. He threw for over 300 yards against Florida's secondary. It's their biggest strength. People question, can he throw the ball downfield? He threw 2 long touchdowns, a 31-yarder and a 27-yarder. He played a great game. The turnovers were the difference in the end. But honestly, without Blake Kemp, they're not even in that game.
Yeah, if you blame Blake Kemp for that game, then you didn't watch the game. And frankly, you don't know too much about football because Blake Kemp is the only reason they were in the game. Blake Kemp was pulled in favor of James Summers, something that we all expected because for whatever reason, the coaching staff is leaning towards James Summers. And Blake Kemp, he had to sit out and he had to come back in, and the offense was just stagnant. And they come out at halftime, and he has to lead them down the field, and he leads them down the field in the 4th quarter. And something fluky like that happens, and you're going to put that. These aren't NFL players. These aren't guys these aren't professionals. These are college athletes. This is Blake Kemp, would be 3rd string quarterback coming in trying to lead this team, and then you sit there and you look at a fluke like that and you blame him for that. That's just not right.
The highlight of the game was those 2 turnovers. They were the difference in the game. But something that nobody talks about that was really alarming in the game was the fact that the Pirates rushed for negative yards. Chris Hairston, who was the superstar in the Towson game, over 150 yards, he averaged less than 1 yard a carry. So without Blake Kemp, the Pirates wouldn't have done a thing on offense. The entire offense got put on his shoulders, and he played very well despite that.
Not to mention it was his first career start on the road in front of almost 90,000 fans. Racked up 333 yards. I thought it was pretty impressive, Dave.
You're right. All of you make valid points. He didn't really cost the team the game. He was the reason why they were in it. So What was some of the things that were improved from the Towson game that got improved in the Florida game that actually had them in the competition with the SEC team?
I think the most eye-opening thing about the difference between the two games was we talked about before the Florida game about how the ECU defense just got bullied against Towson. They're just running the ball down their throats. And other than Blake Kemp, the ECU defense was probably the most eye-opening thing in that Florida game because they were just getting every stop that they needed. You know, in the fourth quarter after the Pirates were down 14, Bryce Williams scores that touchdown. Pirates are only down 7. They got the quick 3-and-out that they needed. You know, things like that. And the defense was just stepped up big time. They weren't missing that many tackles. You know, they forced 2 turnovers, so they had a very good game.
Yeah, what set the team apart for me is that Nickel opened up the playbook and he put Kemp in these situations where he can pass it downfield and gain bigger yardage, and it really paid off. I think that Blake Kemp had a really good game because Dave Nickel, he opened up the playbook, but he didn't try to do too much with him. He wasn't having to throw vertical passes. Things were still mid to short range routes, but it was a little bit more open, and it was a little more on his shoulders, and it looked a little bit more like the ECU offense that we're used to seeing, that air raid, as opposed to Chris Harrison getting a bulk of the carries, 150 yards. No, it wasn't that. It was Blake Kemp. I mean, he was being put in a similar situation that Shane Carden was last year, really, with the game plan there. I think it really paid off, and I think that it really gives the coaches confidence in what he can do and what he's going to be able to do moving forward.
Another thing too is that you said he took the shots on the field to open up the playbook. That did happen, but I mean, Kemp really, other than those 2 touchdown passes, he threw a lot of deep balls that weren't complete. There were a lot of incompletions, but at the same time, just throwing those balls, it spreads out the defense. So I mean, maybe they weren't throwing those balls and this play's going to work, but it's at least going to open up the middle and let, the Isaiah Joneses, the Bryce Williams cut across the middle and, get a good first down game.
And Kemp showed so much more range with his pass distribution compared to Towson. I mean, with Towson we saw bubble screen after bubble screen. At the Swamp, he actually opened it up a little bit more.
Tyler, you about to make a point, man.
Yeah. The connection between Isaiah Jones and Blake Kemp really stood out to me. That's really what you need in a passing offense. You need your quarterback and wide receiver to be on the same page, and those two seem like they really built up a good amount of chemistry between the two of them. I think that's something you're going to continue to see throughout the season.
All right, Bryce Williams and Isaiah Jones, they both seem to be safety blankets, sort of.
Another notable thing, too, is the last 2 times there's been media availability at the ECU practices for the offense, Blake Kemp has kept the reporters waiting because he stayed on the field throwing the ball. So he definitely seems to have the work ethic now. He's trying to get the chemistry with his receivers down and get his throws right. So.
All right, so we've seen a small sample size from this ECU offense, from this ECU team just in general, just because this is such a big transition year. This year, they're going into Navy. What is going to happen this year? Because the last 2 times it's happened, it's been pretty ugly.
Well, in 2010, the Pirates got absolutely dismantled, 76-35. Like the score indicates, it was nothing close at all. But then the next time that they played them, the Pirates squeaked one out in Annapolis, 38-35. So, and then the previous time, 2012, the last time that they played, the Pirates got dismantled once again. Now, Navy is averaging, in the 2 ECU losses to Navy is averaging 517 rushing yards. They have forced a combined 6 turnovers as well in that. So the Pirates are definitely going to need, Navy runs the triple option. It's going to be hard. Navy's going to get yards on the ground, but the Pirates will need to slow that down, and try to keep them less than 300 yards rushing, I would think. So.
Right, you don't have that big defensive tackle no longer clogging up the middle. So what are some of the things that you saw from ECU's rush defense last week that you think can maybe help them coming into this game against Navy?
I think it's really the toughness that they showed. Navy's, they're military guys. They're strong. They take pride in their toughness, and I think ECU's defense really, they show they have some toughness of their own, and that's what they're going to need to be in order to really to not get worn down against this Navy offense, because that's what Navy's going to try to do. They're going to try to wear you down. They're going to try to overpower you, and that's what they take pride in.
Yeah, for me, I mean, to be honest with you guys, the first 2 games haven't really looked like a Rick Smith coach defense, the way that they haven't been able to stop the run really all that well against Towson or Florida. They've been exploited at times, and it was 2 very different teams and 2 different very play styles. And now they're going against Navy, who really is the consummate running team, the triple option, really the old guard, and they're going to pound it on your throat. And really, where I've seen a lot, the defensive line play as well as they had was in the pass rush, especially against Florida. I mean, they were putting pressure. They were taking advantage of Florida's weak offensive line. They put pressure on the quarterback, but they won't really have that that luxury now because it's going to be running. It's going to be, they're going to be getting pushed off the ball. That's what Rick Smith said. He said if the team gets pushed off the ball, they're going to have a lot of problems. And with that 3-4, puts extra emphasis on the linebackers. The outside linebackers coming down, playing like there's 5 men on the line, and occupying every single offensive lineman. So that's where it's really going to be for them, is just making sure that they don't get bullied off the ball, really.
And that triple option can really test your run defense. So the one thing that I've been hearing about Navy is their quarterback. Talk to us a little bit about the quarterback. He only threw 6 passes, but I've heard that he's one of the better Navy quarterbacks that they've had in the recent years.
Well, Keenan Reynolds, obviously for at least the last 10 years, Navy's quarterbacks have also been dual threat quarterbacks. He can run at any moment. He had a touchdown in the previous game against Colgate, 44 yards rushing, if I'm not mistaken. So he's definitely has that to look for in the ECU defense. So they're going to have to always put a man to him, but he's also more capable of throwing. Like you said, they only threw the ball 6 times in the previous game. He completed 3 of them. But Ruffin McNeil has been talking about he has an arm. He is more of a throwing quarterback than we've seen from Navy in the past couple of years. So that's definitely going to be difficult for the ECU defense because they won't be able to just harp on the run if Navy also has the ability to throw the ball. So it'll be hard to try to mismatch and see what they call.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Navy opening up and pass a little more than they did against Colgate.
Yeah, it was a blowout against Colgate. It was 48-10 was the final score. Something if they jumped out to an early lead, just running the ball, running the clock out and everything. But the ECU Navy game's more close. Yeah, they might. Even if ECU gets the lead, they're going to have to air it out more.
Well, I did allude to, or I guess I will be alluding to when I predict my score, but Rick Smith talked today in practice. He said it's going to take some time for ECU's defense to really get up to game speed, and I think that would be really, if they get beat in the first couple possessions, that's going to be costly because once Navy gets that ground attack going, they're going to have a no problem managing the clock and really commanding the pace of the game.
With Navy's heavy run offense, do you think that the ECU is going to try to make sure they score early?
I think it's probably the biggest thing other than stopping the run. It's one of the bigger things because Navy consistently is putting up points on the board. And the dismantling in 2010, 76-35. Navy scored on every possession but 2. They only had to punt twice in that entire game. So they're definitely known to put points up on the board. So that's going to call on the ECU offense as well to match with them and make sure that they don't fall too far behind.
Fortunately, this isn't 2010, and ECU's defense is definitely much tougher now. It's almost ancient history, but you definitely expect a similar type of offense from Navy. So,
and certainly remember that Rick Smith wasn't around for those years that they got dismantled like that. Rick Smith's a guy. He's been coaching for a very long time. He was around whenever the teams were running the wishbone, the triple option, and that was regular. Everybody was doing it. So he's got a lot of experience with it. He knows how to stop it. And he knows all the different formations that they do now. They kind of spread it out a little bit more. Those fullbacks, those widebacks, they go out past the line a little bit. So just kind of to keep defenses on their toes with the passing game. And that's maybe a little bit different of a look that he was saying that he was used to seeing, and in that wishbone as well. So, but he's been around. He knows what to expect from the triple option. He knows how to defend it.
All right. So, been a good discussion about Navy. We'll keep just a little update on the point system. Brian now has 1. Tyler now has 1. Adam has 2. Jesse, me and you are down here at the bottom.
About to get about to blow it open. So
We're about to blow it up.
Time for a
Okay.
comeback.
Time for a comeback. All right. We'll see what we did. Who's the impact players for you guys going forward this week? We're going to start off with Brian up here.
Give me outside linebacker Monteese Overton, and I say that because he's going to be down on the line of scrimmage a lot. He's going to be occupying a lot of their tight ends, their tackles. They're going to bring down his speed is going to be crucial with helping to wreak havoc in the Navy backfield because if you can get some penetration and you can get between blockers and get into that backfield, it changes the whole dynamic of what they're trying to do with the pitches and their reads and everything like that. The game kind of comes to Monteese very naturally. He's a fast guy, he's a physical guy, and I think this is the perfect element for him.
All right, Tyler, what's your prediction for this week?
I think I'm going to go with Chris Hairston. He was shaky last week, but I think he bounces back this week and really establishes the run, makes things easier for Blake Kemp. That's going to be the key. Is ECU is going to need to dominate the pace of play, and I think that's what Chris Hairston's going to be able to do.
Jesse, for you, man, what are we looking for the impact player from you?
I'm taking 6'6" Bryce Williams. Isaiah Jones had a great game, last week, but Williams flew under the radar a little bit, I think. He had a career high 9 catches for 83 yards. You know, he was Bryce Williams or Kemp's favorite target up the middle, and he was getting a lot of yards after the catch too. His physicality really showed out, so I'm taking him.
Yeah, he's also, I believe he got a runner-up honorary for the Maggie Award for this week. Yeah,
So honorable mention.
yeah, honorable mention. Yeah, so that's huge. So now, Adam, what is your impact player for this week?
If I could, I would take the entire ECU secondary, corners, and safeties. But if I have to limit it down to one player, I'm going to take safety Trayvon Simmons. He had a very, very big game against Florida. He was all over the field. So it's definitely with the triple option, they're going to maybe will get into the Pirates secondary. They'll be on the outside of the numbers. And you're going to need to see the ECU secondary step up and make tackles in the open field. And Trayvon Simmons, he's a sure tackler, so I definitely expect him to have a big game in helping stop the rushing offense.
All right, guys. We've been talking about this for the past couple, hours. We're trying to figure out what's the score. So we're going to start off over here with Jesse for the first one. What is your score for this game going into it?
You know, it was a tough one, but I think I'm going to go with Navy. 34-31. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but I'm not sure if ECU's defense is going to be able to keep up with the rushing attack, and I'm not sure if ECU's offense has enough juice to keep up with that either.
Adam?
I'm going to go very similar. It's going to be a close game, I think, but I'm going to go in ECU's favor. I think ECU wins 38-34. Simply put, ECU is going to, I think, put points up on the board early, and they're going to force Navy at some point throughout the game to air the ball out a little more. And with ECU's secondary playing seemingly okay against Florida, I would expect that Navy's passing attack, is going to be a little weak because they're so dependent on the run. Not saying that they can't pass, but I just don't think it'll be fully up to par.
All right, now to Brian. We're going to need to get your prediction for you.
I'm going to take Navy 28-17, and I say that because I think that while ECU is going to go out there, and I think it's going to be a really close game in the first half, I think that Navy's going to start controlling the clock a little bit more and playing to their style of play, and I think that ECU, I just think they're going to have maybe a little bit too much trouble. Maybe they're going to start pressing. Maybe Dave Nichols is going to show some immaturity in his play calling, and he's maybe going to get Phil like a little more pressures on him and open that playbook up, and mistakes can happen. Navy's got a very, very, very good defense as well as that offense, so I'm going to give the edge to Navy 28-17, but I think ECU is going to play well.
This was really tough for me. I was flipping back and forth all week. I think I'm going to take Navy, though, 31-30. When Rick Smith told me today that he expects his defense to get off to a slow start, that was a red flag. I don't think you can get behind in this game and really expect it to be like Florida. ECU got behind, but they hung around. I think Navy's the type of team that's going to put you away if you don't get off to a good start. They'll start putting up points. So.
You know what? I gotta give my prediction for this week. I've been thinking long and hard about this. ECU wins 3-0. 60-yard field goal by the kicker. He's gonna be the impact player for this week. The defense keeps Navy.
There it is.
You heard it, folks.
Yeah. Might as well say 2-0 with
ECU.
Yeah, might as well.
3-0 ECU.
Whereas
guess
Gregory
who?
kicks the field goal.
Yep, kicker gets a 60-yard field goal. I don't know what the kicker is, but he's going to kick a 60-yarder. All right. It's been a great show. Thank you. It's TECsperts. Catch us again next week.